of the Online Food Travel Summit. My name is Eric Wolf, and I serve as the Executive Director of the World Food Travel Association. And I'm pleased to be joined today by Margaret Jeffares from Good Food Ireland. And I had the good fortune to meet Margaret several years ago. I had the privilege of speaking at your conference in Dublin, and that's when Margaret and I got to know each other personally, and she told me her story about how she started Good Food Ireland and how she met her husband and everything. It was really interesting, and over the years, Margaret has really built a fantastic brand around the Irish food, and in many ways, I think you're kind of eclipsing the tourism office in the good work that you're doing. So Margaret and I have stayed in touch over the years, and when we knew that we wanted to do an online summit, Margaret was one of the top people that I thought of to tell her story. And we're not going to be reading the session descriptions or the speaker bios. They're on the website, and we don't want to take up Margaret's time to do that. You all know what the session is about, and you probably have already read Margaret's bio. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Margaret. Margaret, I'll make you the presenter now, and you can take it away.
Thank you so much, Eric. Good afternoon from Ireland, and good morning to you all on the other side of the world. I'm delighted, Eric, to have the opportunity to present to your guests what Good Food Ireland has done in really crafting Ireland as a food tourism destination. It was very much, pioneering and very much ahead of its time, trying to pull all of this together. And some of some people might not think of Ireland, as a destination for food or somewhere that food lovers would travel. But you must remember that Ireland, first of all, is an island, and agriculture and food production is at our heart and is at the heart of our culture for hundreds and hundreds of years. And, we are one of the biggest exporters of food in Europe and around the world. We are even the first European country, only just in the last month, that is after getting our beef into the US market. So, we're very, very rooted in agriculture. And then on the other side of it, our other big indigenous industry is tourism. So the two indigenous industries for Ireland that reached out to the whole four corners of the island, to urban and rural areas and small local communities, were our agri-food sector and our tourism sector. And my background was very much in international marketing, tourism in products like hotels and restaurants, and nobody ever really asked for many years, where can I eat in Ireland? Everybody said, where can I stay in Ireland? How do I get there? What flights, all of that. But people around 2002, 2003, you all may remember, we had foot and mouth disease in Europe. We had, global scares like SARS globally, and people were beginning to fear about where they were eating when they traveled. So for the first time, I kind of began to hear people saying, well, where can I eat in Ireland? Where can I get this good food in Ireland? So at the same time as that, I kind of knew within the industry, I, had many clients at the time that, were small little country house properties or little castles, or they could have been small restaurants. And the common theme between all of them was this amazing, amazing passionate commitment to engaging with artisans and farmers and local food producers, and in bringing that produce from the farm through to their restaurant and putting it on their menus and on the table. And I felt very much that, if I can get this audience that I had been speaking to internationally and asking me about restaurants and where to eat, if I could get all of them to come to Ireland, and when they come to Ireland, to go to all of these great little places that are buying this local food and engaging with artisans, I could create this massive economic opportunity for Ireland. And, that was where it all came out. And, so it was about, bringing these two together for the very first time. Because at that time, food wasn't marketed within tourism. It was really more just like a service that was provided because, we've all got to eat. So it was really about working on that and making, starting and pioneering the beginning of food as a driver for tourism to this country. So, to do that, I obviously had to create a brand. It was very much, felt amongst my industry that brand had to have standards. We have to be able to stand over to our consumer promise. and we had to ensure that everything would live up to the expectations of visitors coming into Ireland. Just getting on to the next slide. Sorry now. Oh, sorry, Eric.
That's okay.
I'm having problems getting on with my next slide.
Do you see the arrow above the PowerPoint?
Yeah, it's jammed for some reason. Oh, wow. No.
Let me see if I can advance it for you.
If you can, it's just stuck. Oh, great. Wonderful. That's perfect, Eric. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, apologies for that, everybody. So the whole vision of Good Food Ireland, to bring that together, I had to create a selective network of member businesses that would deal in really good food and epitomise excellence. Quality needed to be controlled by an agreed set of standards that I had to formulate, and then mutually reinforced by all the activities of those members within that group. And then the brand network sustainability was through skilled marketing of the brand and promotion of the brand, Good Food Ireland. So it's about, bringing together, informed understanding of our consumer behaviour that we researched and found out on the coalface in the international market, and assist, with the promotion of all of these businesses through the Good Food Ireland brand at international, regional, and obviously at local business level. So, sorry, Eric, can you move that on again, please?
Yeah, one moment. Let me change myself back to presenter.
Sorry, I don't know what's wrong.
That's okay. Why don't you just tell me when you want to advance the slide and I'll do it.
Great. Thank you. So, putting in place Good Food Ireland, the brand, and looking at the whole vision and the goals for the whole vision, we very much wanted to create, a national super brand, an icon for good food in Ireland, and to grow it as a network of guaranteed excellence for consumers, so that we would drive that consumer business to all our member businesses, and at the same time support and educate members. And I said to you at the beginning, it was back in around 2002, 2003 when the idea and the concept came about. And it wasn't until November 2006 that we launched the brand. And at that time, industry, though they were all, engaging with local artisans and buying Irish foods, they weren't telling anybody. And this was an amazing thing. So I knew that, if I was going to create this brand that was going to tell the story about them engaging with artisans and buying Irish foods, they needed to do that as well. So within our goal, it was very, very an important part of it that we had to support and educate our members to say that if we're going to tell consumers, guys, that, you're buying from artisans and using local food, you've got to tell it yourself. So you've got to put it on your website, you've got to, put it on your menus. And so many of them came back to me and said, Margaret, that's really amazing. We have, as you say, been buying these foods for 10 years, but you know what? We've never told anybody about it. So we had to work with them. So actually, as part of our contract of approval under the brand of Good Food Ireland, they had to mention their philosophy of purchasing and engagement with artisans on the menus. They had to put up the sign, they had to put it on the website, so that the whole touch points from consumer through to the Good Food Ireland brand, through to individual business level, would all have the same communication and the same messaging. So then it was very much about, bringing this intensive marketing of all of these members together and working very much in collaboration with Fáilte Ireland domestically, with Tourism Ireland internationally, our state agencies, and making sure that everything we did within the brand Good Food Ireland and the organisation was in line with their national tourism strategy at domestic and international level. Okay, Eric, thank you.
Sure. Well, hold on. There we go.
So our whole function then was to collectively market good food places with regulated criteria to international domestic tourists, using this Good Food Ireland brand as the consumer-facing endorsement for quality and consistency, all based around that core of local food. Thanks, Eric. So the business model was very much a virtuous circle of mutual reinforcement, as we said very much. It was about, Good Food Ireland, setting standards, sharing best practices amongst our industry, our suppliers, our outlets, our third parties who were sponsors and partners, and bringing all of that through to the public, through the brands, going around in a circle, driving basically consumer business. So it was all about creating this aspiration for food outlets and developing wider public recognition for the amazing work and amazing effort that they were doing in bringing local food really from farm to fork. Thank you, Eric. So it's creating a differentiating brand in the market that needed to have a competitive edge. This was really, really important to help us go forward and tell our story. Thanks, Eric. And how do we do that? Within the brand strategy, it was very, very important for us that we needed to stay in touch with consumers all the time. We had a new brand, not alone, had they never even heard of it, they didn't even, know the philosophy or understand the philosophy. So it was very much the philosophy of the brand that we brought to the fore to consumers at the beginning and sold the concept to them that these are all great food people around Ireland supporting Irish farmers, food producers and fishermen. So we needed to stay in touch with our consumer and grow that audience. And we did that through a number of touch points. Initially, at the initial contact, which was kind of, through literature and all the traditional methods, mailers, in-home mailers. And we also set up peer groups and ambassadors for Good Food Ireland. But then we had to obviously authenticate this through our in-life experiences. And we did many, many events around the country. We partnered also with Tourism Ireland in the international market, representing Ireland and bringing the people of Good Food Ireland internationally, bringing their character and promoting food through people. Because Ireland was classically and traditionally known, and why people come to Ireland is because of our scenery and our people. Food obviously didn't even feature, and though now it's growing, back in 2006 it didn't even feature. So it was very much, about bringing the people to the top of the table. So instead of, using photography and images like of food and rounds of cheese and stuff like that, we brought our people. So we brought the big smiley, butcher or the smiley cheesemaker and the real, people of Ireland, and then said, you're a butcher, you're a baker, and tried to sell food through our people. So we told the story of our people. And many of them, and so many of them, have wonderful stories to tell. So the events and the promotions that we did internationally allowed us to very much, really, really kind of animate that whole experience and try to make it more tangible for a consumer to really appreciate it and understand the food of our country then. And then obviously we did it, we reinforced that, of course, then in the businesses through, touch points of the brands, through the signage that the consumer would meet at the door, through their websites, on their menus, and in their presentation of how they did things. Many members, for example, would have put together on the menu a Good Food Ireland plate, where the family of Good Food Ireland producers might come together, maybe 6 or 8 of them, and a restaurateur or a chef would create a plate of beautiful Irish charcuterie and farmhouse cheeses and some homemade relishes, and just create a plate or smoked salmon. So that was the type of presentation where the brand was continually reinforced all the way through our whole network of businesses. Thank you, Eric. So basically, from a consumer perspective, what we wanted to do, where we wanted to position the brand, was that it was an association guaranteeing simply good local food, and it was from and for people who really do care. Thanks, Eric. And and that was very much, very, very much at the heart of the whole Good Food Ireland family, because at the end of the day, it was a like-minded, or it is a like-minded group of passionate people who really, really live for this local food in their businesses. So we had to articulate that from a brand perspective and engaging with consumers. We articulated that further to ensure that Good Food Ireland would give assurance to people with discerning palates. After all, this was the target market. We needed to pitch it at people that would realise that they would find within our membership good, wholesome, rewarding food. and that user endorsement would be encouraged to help maintain standards and recognise new outlets. And then wherever possible, products be locally sourced and made. We were very aware that this is about local food, but not all foods can be grown or produced in Ireland. So it's about having that serious, passionate commitment to local food. And we have a range. Many of our products or providers would have smaller the establishment, obviously the easier it is. We have many of them that would do a 12-mile menu, 15-mile menu, and then you'd have your larger establishments that are catering for a broader market that would have to, have other imported foods, and that's good too, and that's all right. It creates, it creates diversity. So Good Food Ireland, even though it is about pushing the core indigenous ingredients of Irish cuisine, it's about good food in Ireland, so it's a whole range of different types of products, which I'll talk to you a little later about. But it's very much, it's not elitist. It's very much inclusive as opposed to exclusive. However, it is selective, and there's no question about it. It is selective in that you've got to be passionate, you've got to be committed, and you've got to want to be part of this. So it's this shared philosophy. And I think that's the amazing thing that the consumer feels and experiences when they go from one Good Food Ireland member to the next. Because it could be just a simple little coffee shop that just serves soup and sandwiches to a Michelin-starred restaurant. And it's the passion of the people that they experience from one establishment to the other that makes it really, really special and gives it all standout. So assurance is very, very important. Discerning palates, good, which is unpretentious, authentic, not overstated. This is Ireland. We're about, unpretentious, good, authentic food from the produce, using the ingredients of our country. That is Good Food Ireland. It's wholesome. The food is not messed with, as we say. It's rewarding. You'll always just get much more than just good local food. It's about the service standard. It's about the happy faces, smiley people. It's about everything. Everything that the visitor would expect of Ireland, and everything that we're so proud of, and that we can bring to the visitor experience. And then obviously endorsement is very important. Standards, feedback from our consumers, and all of that to create the trust that we've had to try to grow over the years. And then wherever possible, transparent as possible, we put them on our website. It's about locally, it's about simple, it's about genuine, warm, and it's more. And as I said, it's that all-round experience, so that it creates lasting memories for people visiting Ireland, or indeed ourselves here at home when we meet out or have a weekend away in Ireland. Thanks, Eric. So the brand generates a motivating consumer proposition and brand standout, and really that's what Good Food Ireland does for the consumer. Thank you. So it's great. We have had to work on creating this successful relationship with consumers. Remember, we've had two types of customers. We've had our industry, who are our members, and then we've had our consumer. And most of all, as initially we had to grow the product, so we had to get members under the brand. But now in the last number of years, it's all about driving the consumer. So we've had to understand the consumer and work out how does the brand make them feel, what do they get out of the brand, and really the bottom line, when we narrow it down very tightly to the whole brand essence, it's about great food and genuine people, which to us epitomizes the whole experience of Ireland. Thanks, Eric. So the consumer brand proposition is that it's a quality assurance mark for everyone who simply loves good local food. And as we say, it's simply good food. Thanks, Eric. So the desired response is what we've always tried to work on, and we've had to nurture this over time, and it has taken so much time, and there's been many challenges because, we've had to educate not just an industry, we've had to educate a consumer. So, the type of responses that we've always aimed at within our strategy is that consumers would kind of know that I'm really going to enjoy my food, when I get there from here, with people I bring along, when I get home, with this, with these, if I try doing it this way, because it's a rock solid recommendation. That was the real nuts and bolts of it. Everything we had to do from the very, very beginning in Good Food Ireland was trying to build trust amongst consumers and build credibility with our industry, with our consumers. and very much be very conscious of the commercial realities of all of this, and balance that very, very carefully so that the integrity of the brand and that guarantee and trust that the consumer had in it and the industry had in it would never, ever, ever be jeopardized. So really, all of these desired responses were always written up on a chalkboard in our office, and something that we worked on every single day for the last 9 years. Thanks, Eric. The brand values, to finish up on the brand, it's very much, it's about real people, passionate people, inspiring, and that always wanted to provide excellent value. And then with our customers, we want our customers to feel trusted, relaxing, down to earth. In Ireland, we're not as a race or as a people. We're not an arrogant race. We're not a haughty race. We're very much down to earth. We are ourselves. And, we are Irish. So down to earth was very, very important as a core emotional value of the brand. And rewarding also. Rewarding, as I said earlier on, that you'd expect good food when you go to a Good Food Ireland business, but the rewarding surprise might be the people and that shared passion that I talked about. So has always been about building these steadily and consistently at every opportunity in our promotion, in our wording, in our communication, both to our industry and to our consumers. Thanks, Terry. The tone of voice, down to earth, witty, advisory, enlightening, and enthusiastic. So again, everything about building this brand character over the 8 years. Thanks, Terry. Again, the brand personality, exactly the same, but, knowledgeable and convivial. And I've just also put in there, over the years, it has very much grown as a brand perceived as a companion or an escort taking you around Ireland. Like your friend in Ireland, like meeting a local. And, I see one of our speakers later on is presenting her website on like that. And that's what Good Food Ireland has always been. It's like when you travel around Ireland with Good Food Ireland, you go from one place to the other. So it's like your friend in Ireland bringing you around the country. So again, that's been very much part of the whole proposition from the outset. Thanks, Eric. So in summary, the core essence of the brand itself is that it's, about great food, genuine people, and, there's justification there in that it's owners that have been, and places that have been inspected. It's got high standards around local food, and it makes everybody feel, warm, and the sensory values and new experiences. It provides passionate and genuine. It's eclectic. It's discerning. And it makes, most of all, it makes people feel inspired, relaxed through, the down-to-earth engagement, and most of all, rewarded. Thanks, Eric. So the consumer connections really, and when we're targeting consumers, it's a whole kind of mutual reinforcement of the consumer connections. Consumers that are very much into eating and holidaying and their health, and food, as you all know, crosses so many different segments, and health and food, people into diets and food, the environment, people into sourcing, the drinking and the whole trend around breweries and local craft beers. And then the learning and the cooking that I've talked about, and then all the serving enhancements. And these are the partners and distributors and wholesalers that we would work with. So this is kind of the whole consumer connection and bringing it all together through the brand of Good Food Ireland. And I'll talk about that as I kind of move on a little bit more. Thanks, Eric. So the membership category. So, I've kind of given you a very high-level overview of the brand strategy and the brand and what it means. So now to talk a little bit more about the product itself that's under that brand. When we looked at all the different types of products that needed to be under the brand, it was driven, of course, through the strategy by the consumer and who the consumer was, a discerning food lover coming to Ireland for sightseeing, walking, or holidaying in Ireland, and that wanted to see and obviously had to eat. So what type of places would these food lovers need when they'd come to Ireland? And that was really the core determinant of that made up the membership category. Because so many people at the beginning would have said to me, well, why have you got hotels in Good Food Ireland? And what's hotels got to do with it? But the reality is, people, when they come on holiday to Ireland or they go out around Ireland on holidays, our locals, you've got to stay somewhere. And how many times have we all said, we're just going to stay somewhere, not put money into our bed, we're just going to stay somewhere, put our head down because the food is always terrible, in hotels where the breakfast is always so disappointing before we pop on a plane to go home. But, the reality is, yes, that can certainly be the case and is obviously the case, but there are so many wonderful, wonderful, hotels and small little country houses and guest houses, B&Bs and farmhouses all over Ireland that are so passionate about engaging with artisans and farmers and food producers and priding themselves on their food. And these people in these businesses had so little standout recognition over, the mainstream hotel that really just provided food as a service. So it was very important to me that these people needed this standout and recognition. But obviously, from a consumer perspective, somebody had to stay somewhere. And, if there's a product that has good food, let's give them that hotel or that country house or that castle to stay in. So food and accommodation was very much part of it. Restaurants, every type of restaurant that a consumer would want to experience. So from your tiny little, small little bistro, casual style cafe, all the way through to your, your fine dining, your Michelin-starred restaurants. Pubs, of course, as well, Irish pubs. There's a whole different type of selection of Irish pubs, but we're all about pubs that you're really concentrating on food and good food, not imported food, the food of our country and bringing that to the table. And the cafes and then the cookery schools. And, as we would grow food tourism in the country, we would hope that our cookery schools would become part of the holiday experience in a much greater way. And people may learn to cook some of the traditional dishes or want to find out more about our traditional dishes. And then food shops so people could get a picnic when they're driving in their car around Ireland. But obviously then food producers and we felt that, having food producers in it, not alone would you drive the B2B between the food producers and the food service providers, the industry or the consumer, should I say, or the holidaymaker coming into Ireland may want to seek out food producers and go and visit them. So we felt that, by promoting these food producers and their food on menus, we might grow a commercial opportunity at Farm Gate for food producers. And we have many, many stories to tell over the last 8 years, how so many of our food producers are now open to the public because of their promotion and exposure to Good Food Ireland. So that's really, it's a whole cross-section of products under the brand, but obviously food and that local food is always at the core of our membership. We often say, they might have diamonds hanging off their curtains, but they don't get into Good Food Ireland unless they've got that wonderful passion for local food at their core. Thank you, Eric. So the membership profile is passionate about quality of food. They believe in good old-fashioned hospitality. Individual character and attention to detail, very, very important. Locally sourced ingredients wherever possible. Competitively priced, imaginative menus, championing seasonal dishes and attractive selected wines. So really, this isn't any, new invention or anything that I came up with. This is good food internationally that all of, you will all be aware of in any country. I suppose for me in Good Food Ireland, it was just for the very first time I was pulling all of this together under a brand. Thank you, Eric. And the membership criteria, very loosely here, I've just kind of put them together. Superior food offering or supply. At the end of the day, they may have been able to have Irish beef on the menu and on the plate, but they have to cook as well, and they have to present as well. So it has to be a superior food offering, because we all know, you can have a wonderful ingredient, but some chef can mess it up or a cook can mess it up. So it was about this superior food offering. It's about using local arts and Irish food, engaging with the artisans, as I said, respecting the seasonality, and to prioritise in-house cooking and production. And so many places can just buy in from white coats, as we say, the cakes and pastries and stuff like that. But it was really, really about encouraging this in-house cooking and production. And then obviously to highlight the link between the local artisan, especially on the menus. That's the educational role that was within our strategy at the outset and within our contracts. To offer this local food experience all around the island of Ireland and promote the local traditional indigenous foods, not just of our country, but of the regions and the smaller destinations throughout. Thank you, Eric. Quality assurance. Again, when I kind of came up with this vision of Good Food Ireland, and when I went out to industry at the very beginning and said to them, guys, what do you think of my idea? Am I up a gum tree, or should I do this and pull it all together? The one thing that the industry, and these were very, very good high-level industry, all came back to me and said, we've got to have standards. It's very easy to pull an organisation together like Good Food Ireland if you don't have standards, because at the end of the day, standards cost money, and everywhere has to be inspected. And as you quite rightly said, Eric, at the outset, we're not a government agency. We have to be self-financing. We're not funded, so we don't have other funds. And quality assurance is very, very important to our members. So we felt we had to bring this in. So that's when we set out, a set of agreed standards. And the other side of it is to ensure that, when Ireland was being marketed and pushed as the very first time as a food tourism destination, we had to ensure that these visitors are going to come to places where, that assurance and that promotion was going to live up to its expectations. So, we've always said when we market internationally, go through Good Food Ireland if you're visiting Ireland and you love good food, because that's your guarantee. And we're not saying that there's places outside of Good Food Ireland that aren't good. Of course they are. But at least with Good Food Ireland, you are guaranteed. And we are growing the network, and we have, there's other wonderful places in Ireland that aren't in Good Food Ireland, but, we're a small little organisation and with limited resources. So we encourage everybody to be part of the organisation that's committed to this shared philosophy, and we try to bring them all with us, and year after year we're growing it, but making sure obviously that the credibility of the brand and the people within the organisation at the moment always remains intact, and that's really uppermost of our, in our thinking. So quality assurance is on two levels. It's from quality assurance of our product for our industry, and obviously quality assurance to ensure that the guarantee for our consumer is carried through all the way to the very end. Thank you, Eric. So the Prime membership industry, so the bottom line is, what the industry get out of it? When we pull this all together, we had to create a strong umbrella brand. This was obviously the most critical part of it. That would grow business. It would be, the touch point for comprehensive international and national marketing, and the network opportunities, and obviously the backroom marketing support services. Now they seem just quite short, but to be honest, they're very, very broad. The strong umbrella brand, that had to be developed. That was a nothing 8 years ago. It was just an idea. So we started with nothing. We just started with a concept, and every day and every week and every year, we had to bring people with us to try to believe in that concept. And many did, and many said to me, who cares, Margaret, whether it's local? So, we had to just plow on, and we had to keep our direction and keep our focus, and keep the people around us that were, passionate about this and were enthused about this, and keep our focus. So nowadays, I suppose the biggest value to our members and to our industry is the brand. We obviously do all the other stuff, but the biggest thing is the brand. The minute the brand is associated with a small business around Ireland, it gets instant recognition from our media, from passing visitors, or from other industries. So the brand is now the strongest benefit. And then obviously everything we do is about promoting the brand and the selection of members underneath it. And then the backroom services, that was something that, has always really been there as part of the network. It's where our members, it's very personal in Good Food Ireland. It's a small team. We work very, very closely. We understand our industry because we've come from industry. We're just like them. We've been in their seats. We understand their feelings, understand what they're going through. So I suppose it's very much about ensuring that we kind of operate at their level. And by that I mean that everything we do is to make everybody comfortable, whether it's dealing with a potato farmer or a blackcurrant grower like my husband, to a five-star hotelier. It's about operating at their level and bringing them all together as one. And I think that's the really special thing that Good Food Ireland does. Then the networking opportunities, the immense commercial business-to-business opportunities between members over the years has just been phenomenal. From producers, selling their products to our food service industry, and then food service industry, meeting other industry, and like all industries, there are peers and there are celebrities, and the small little coffee shop owner meeting, for example, the celebrity chef, and all being on the same level. That networking opportunity has been immense, and relationships and friendships, and as it's called now, the family has really, really grown. Thank you, Eric. So the core member offer obviously is marketing services. We are a marketing company, and that is nationally and internationally. And as I said earlier on, it's very, very much in line with working with the government agencies, and it's in line with national tourism strategies. So that is the core of our offer to industry. Thank you, Eric. Now, to do that, what do we do? I just highlighted a few things here, and I won't go through it all, but they're all the traditional means of marketing. Obviously, our website, the e-marketing, the promotions, direct marketing, and the events that I said earlier on were great. They were a great way to get to the consumer, and workshops. And now, we do an awful lot of kind of very high-level events now. Like last November, for example, the second biggest technology conference in the world, the Dublin Web Summit, was on in November in Dublin. I think Las Vegas has the biggest one, and I think it's the second biggest, and 20,000 tech delegates came to Dublin for 3 days, and Good Food Ireland fed the delegates over for lunches and some breakfasts and some dinners over the 3 days. Now, that was just like an unbelievable feat. We were backed up behind the scenes by caterers, which was fantastic. They did all the kind of logistical operation. But I had over 250 businesses came together with their food, and none of them, they're just restaurateurs. So you can imagine 20,000 people. I had to have something like 2,400 kilos of a beef dish, for example, as one of my main dishes on the menu. So I had about 6 restaurateurs would come together, the chefs would come together and cook for one beef dish. Another 6 would come together and maybe do a chicken dish or a fish dish. And it was that amazing cooperation of over 250 businesses that was just overwhelming for visitors coming to Ireland. And we're very, very proud of it. And we're just up for an award now in a couple of weeks' time for the new inaugural Irish Tourism Industry Awards. And we're up for Best Food Experience. So hopefully we'll win that, but we don't know. We're up against a strong competition. And so we just have to see how it goes. But, we're very, very proud of our members, what everybody did. And we're very proud of the Web Summit themselves. And the young guys that have founded that organisation, and that they had the insight and the foresight to give food a chance and help us influence and change the perception of Irish food and really, get Irish food to stand on its own. It's not British food, it's not Scottish food, it is Irish food, and it is very, very different. Thank you, Eric. So we're nearly 9 years on. How have we done? And it was very important for us to try to measure this a little bit. So we worked with Grant and partnered, thankfully, with Grant Thornton, an international financial company. And for the last number of years, they've carried out surveys amongst our industry. And in 2012, I think was the first one, and over 70% of our members said that Good Food Ireland had increased their business profile and given them a renewed focus on locally sourced food. So even the members of Good Food Ireland, even though they were all committed to buying local food, there was a wonderful nearly competition or kind of wanting to do better when they joined Good Food Ireland, because they would meet their own industry peers and they'd start talking food, and then somebody would say, oh yes, my bacon, I'm not sure exactly where that comes from. I must be very, very careful that I get it from the nearest supplier as opposed to the supplier 50 miles away. So this wonderful camaraderie came together, and that renewed focus, even amongst people that were already doing it, was very, very strong in the survey that came out. But the most wonderful thing of all, and that kind of said to me, okay, now 8 years on, we have built the foundation of Good Food Ireland. and that was that 97% of our businesses increased their purchasing of Irish food. And that was in 2012, and it has grown from 2008 to 2011. 92% said they increased their purchasing. So in 2012, 97% increased their purchasing, which contributed in the region of 50 million directly to the local economy. And that was all that kind of cyclical circle that I talked about at the very beginning of the visitor coming into Ireland. And if the visitor comes into Ireland and buys the Irish food from the hospitality providers, the restaurants or the hotels, what will they do? Only go and buy more local food. So finally, kind of the whole thing with Good Food Ireland, our whole food tourism strategy and business model is about underpinning growth. It's through the Good Food Ireland brand you get high quality Irish food, creates this strong brand that will hopefully go and attract tourists, sustain businesses in the whole island of Ireland, and drive growth in the economy for our country. Thank you all very, very much. Thank you, Eric.
Excellent. Margaret, thank you. That was fantastic. Very, very interesting. We are going to start taking some questions, and if anyone would like to ask Margaret a question, we have about 10 minutes, and go ahead and put it into the chat window on the lower right corner. I do have one question that I can start us off with. And that is, how does Good Food Ireland work with the tourism office? Who does what? And to that end, how do people really find Good Food Ireland's resources if they don't know it exists? So does the tourism office refer people to you, or how does that work? How do they find you?
Yeah, but Good Food Ireland has obviously always worked with Culture Ireland and Tourism Ireland, and we're seen as a product marketing company. And you know, it's very new, Good Food Ireland in its concept, because as I said, it's about food. But if you go back and look at other product marketing groups, they've been there for years. So you have hotel product marketing groups, you have country house product marketing groups. So our tourist boards traditionally are aware and know how to work with product marketing groups. So Good Food Ireland is really just another product marketing group. But yes, it was something new. So when I launched Good Food Ireland, it was about sitting down with the government agencies and tourism bodies who were very aware that this, needed to be done. But as an industry, I suppose we just got up ourselves and did it, and then went to our tourist boards and said, please support us and please work with us. And they were amazing in that they put their arms around us. They allowed us to go forward internationally and supported us in that way. And at the time when Good Food Ireland was launched, Brand Ireland, the Brand Ireland strategy was just being gone through, and it was changing and evolving. So we were very much able to influence food as part of that brand strategy back in 2006, 2007. So that was wonderful influence on the direction of marketing food. And so now everything has moved on, Eric. It's like the recession in Ireland. I said there in the presentation, some people thought I was up a gum tree. But, the reality is, when I spoke to my father, who's a farmer in the west coast of Ireland, and he said to me, Margaret, for this concept that you're coming up with, you're going to need a recession, because Irish people go back to their roots. And it was an amazing thing that I didn't really understand at the time. But, as a people and as a race, we really, really dig deep when in times of trouble, and we support each other as a race, and we come together. And that is very much what we did with the recession. Ireland looked to support its own, it looked buying local. And as a result of that, the popularity of Good Food Ireland and the concept of our hospitality service supporting our farmers and our food producers absolutely soared. So the recession has been really, really good for us in ways in that it's created a greater consumer understanding. Obviously, financially and in other ways, of course, it's had huge challenges, but everything I do is very much about driving the consumer, and, if there's a consumer demand for it, there will always be a Good Food Ireland. I hope
Great.
that.
One quick question. Do you do anything with kids for Good Food Ireland?
We do only probably at product level. We haven't rolled it out fully. We work obviously with families from a holiday making perspective, yes. but really just pushing it through individual product level. We haven't pushed it directly in a very, very strong way, to be honest, through direct marketing campaigns for kids. Very much limited resources in our marketing, Eric, and looking at the core groups, again, working with tourism in the key markets, US, Germany, UK, looking at the segmentation of those markets on a national level and trying to feed into those. And, the key core market segments that Ireland looks for is the culturally curious, which is probably the one that we fit most in under, because Ireland and food is at the heart of our culture. It's about telling that story. And then the cultural tourist is a very strong, percentage of the tourists coming into this country. So that's probably the key core market. If you drill down on it, yes, families are part of it as well. But because of limited resources, we have to kind of keep it at a higher level.
Very good. Here's an interesting question. How critical has the international popularity of Irish culture been to your success? How much more difficult would it have been if Ireland had been a less well-known country?
Yes, I think, absolutely. The people and the culture of Ireland has always helped. It's like, we're fortunate in that Ireland, has that image and is good, and our culture is strong. But, you can create, it's just a different way of looking at it. I think if you are a destination that is not as strong in the culture stage, basically, you still can bring your food through it, and maybe in different ways. Culture for us was our farming and our agri community, because, we're all only 1 or 2 generations from farming. But, maybe if you're not that type of country, you could maybe look at it through trends of cuisine, of, popularity of food types of produce that your chefs are working with, different types of recipes, innovations. That's how I would look at, developing a country or an area that isn't as culturally well off as we are. I hope that helps.
Excellent. Another question, how do you set the standards? Is it in coordination with the World Food Travel Association? No. Or with the local food regulations?
No, our standard is that it's Good Food Ireland is a marketing brand, and it's very much like a charter that you have to meet. So the standards were really set on looking at the DNA of a food lover coming into Ireland. What would they want to get when they came to Ireland? And then also looking at the really, really good people that were, as in the chefs and the restaurateurs, that were providing this, many of them for 20, 25 years, and writing out their DNA basically, and saying, okay, they do this, they do that, and really pulling the two together and putting a set of criteria in place. So, the vision, as I say, at the outset, and was bringing the two indigenous sectors, agriculture and food, together with tourism and hospitality, and for the economic benefit of the country. That was the vision. So it was about looking at what was best in that. So looking at those restaurants, as I say, buying all this Irish food, the very good ones, writing the DNA for them, and then writing the DNA for the food lover coming into Ireland, what they would want, and bringing those two together, and that became the standard.
Great. Okay, one last question before we wind up. How has your growth in personnel looked like? How many did you start with, and how many do you employ now?
Employing now, we've gone through a whole different kind of learning curves on employment of people. We've had kind of 8 full-time on the books. We now have 4 full-time on the books, and we tend to work more with contract people, be it full-time contract or part-time contract. To really deliver for a country what we've had to deliver, we found that we had to work with a very high level of expertise in the individuals that we work with. And as a small industry organization, we haven't had the resource to employ those people. So it's very much been the chicken and egg. So we've worked on contracts, not with agencies, mainly, well, with some agencies, but mainly with individual self-employed people and sustained them and built them over the years and basically sustained them in employment. Many of them have had years of experience and have helped, grow the whole passion, grow the whole family of Good Food Ireland.
Excellent. Well, that is going to do it for today. We need to get ready for our next session. If anyone has a question that wasn't answered, I would encourage you to reach out to Margaret directly. Her email, telephone, and Twitter handle are all listed here on the screen for your use. Please do contact Margaret if you have any specific questions. I'm sure she'd be delighted to hear from you. Margaret, thank you so much for sharing your story today. You've done an amazing job in the past several years, and it's really been an honor to watch your growth, and I'm so pleased for you. So congratulations, and thank you again for participating today.
Eric, thank you very, very much. And as I said earlier, it was great to have you when you came to Ireland initially for the first time, to our conference. And likewise, World Food Travel Association has gone from strength to strength. So thank you. Thank you to everybody that has listened. And yes, please send me emails if I can help in any way. It's a big, big story to tell. We have a long, long way to go. We're far from there. But, we've got a great people behind us. We've got a great industry, and, we've got great customers. So thank you all very, very much. And look up Good Food Ireland when you want to come to Ireland. We look forward to welcoming you.
Thank you again, Margaret. Bye-bye. Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.